Hello and welcome. Today, we are grabbing our lab coats and stepping into the morgue for a corporate autopsy. We're going to find out exactly why some of the world's biggest, most solid-looking companies can suddenly and just spectacularly implode from the inside out. So how in the world does this even happen? You've got a company with billions in the bank, thousands of employees, and then one day, it just falls apart. Well, as we're about to find out, it is almost never just one bad call. It's more like a systemic rot, a total breakdown in the very architecture that's supposed to keep the whole thing standing. Okay, so to get this started, we have to visit the crime scene first. To really understand what's going wrong, we need to look at some of the most infamous corporate disasters out there. These are going to be our case studies. First on the slab, the PNB scam. We are talking about a fraud of over 11,000 crore rupees. And get this wasn't some slick outside hacking job. Nope. This was a catastrophic failure of the most basic, fundamental internal processes and audits. The very plumbing of the bank was just completely broken. Now, the story of Satyam is just dripping with irony. This company actually won a super prestigious award for, wait for it, its corporate governance. At the same time, behind closed doors, its top leaders were actively working with the auditors to cook the books. This is a case where the watchdogs weren't just asleep on the job, they were helping the burglars carry the loot out the front door. And then we have the Yes Bank crisis. Their strategy was, well, pretty simple. Find people and companies that every other bank had already said no to and give them loans. Oh, and they'd charge these massive fees right up front. It was a business model basically built on ignoring risk for a quick payday. And you guessed it, it ended in total disaster. Okay, so these cases all show this really clear pattern of internal collapse. So let's start our investigation with the first line of defense that's supposed to stop all of this from ever happening, the system of rules we call governance. So what is corporate governance? Put simply, it's the company's official rule book. It's the constitution that dictates how the board, the executives, and even the shareholders are supposed to act. It's what's meant to guide every big decision and keep everybody in their lane. And here is the absolute crucial point. Without that strong rulebook, any attempt to manage risk is pretty much useless. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of quicksand. Good governance isn't just a nice-to-have, it's the non-negotiable starting point. But a rulebook sitting on a shelf isn't enough by itself. You need a living, breathing system that connects every single part of the company. And this brings us to the second major piece of evidence in our autopsy. The management system itself. That system is called Enterprise Risk Management, or ERM for short, and you can think of it like the company's nervous system. It's a process that's designed to connect everyone and everything, flowing from the very top, the board, all the way down to the newest employee. It makes sure that risk isn't just some department's problem, it's part of the company's DNA. And I absolutely love this quote because it completely reframes the whole idea, right? ERM isn't about making a bunch of checklists and telling people no. It's about developing a strategic, forward-thinking mindset across the entire organization, constantly asking what if, and always planning for the long haul. And this chart right here shows you the exact moment the world woke up and smelled the coffee. Before 2008, research on ERM was kind of niche, but after the global financial crisis, bam, it exploded. That whole meltdown was an incredibly painful lesson in what happens when that forward-thinking mindset just isn't there. So we've got the rules and we've got the system. But who's actually responsible for making sure it all works? Well, this brings us to the guardians of the company, what's known as the 3 lines of defense. The easiest way to think about it is like defending a castle. The first line, that's your frontline soldiers, the business teams out there making decisions every single day. The second line is the guards up in the watchtower, the risk and compliance folks who are watching the whole battlefield. And that third line, that's the independent inspector, internal audit, who reports directly back to the king, or in this case, the board. But here is the fatal flaw with seeing so many failed companies. That first line, the soldiers on the front line who are literally facing risks every single day, often have zero training in how to spot it or manage it. They're basically being sent into battle without a shield or even a map. So how do you start to fix that? Well, a huge part of it is empowering the right leaders. This survey of risk professionals shows an overwhelming consensus. I mean, look at that. 77% believe that having the chief risk officer report directly to the board, not to the CEO, significantly improves risk management. It gives the head guardian a truly independent voice. Okay, so we've got our guardians in place, but how do they know what they're supposed to be guarding against? How does a company decide how much risk is okay and how much is way too much? That is where the idea of risk appetite comes in. Risk appetite is basically the company's risk budget. Before they even start chasing a goal, the leaders have to clearly define how much risk they're willing to stomach to get there. This sets clear boundaries and helps prevent that kind of reckless, win-at-all-cost behavior we saw in the case studies. And here's a really simple way to see how that works. A company doesn't just draw one big red line. No, they create a whole matrix of tolerance levels. A risk that's high impact and high likelihood, that's an immediate breach of the budget. But a high impact, low likelihood event, that's a warning signal. It's an early warning system designed to trigger action before the company drives off a cliff. So let's recap. We've got the rules, the system, the guardians, and the boundaries. But there is one final, intangible, and, frankly, absolutely crucial piece of this whole puzzle that ties everything together. And that final piece is risk culture. It's the shared mindset. It's the collective behavior and ethics of every single person in the organization. You see, a strong risk culture is what turns risk management from a theoretical, box-ticking exercise into a living, breathing part of how every employee makes decisions every single day. So why does any of this matter? Well, getting this stuff right isn't just about dodging the next big scandal. A really solid risk governance system leads to real, tangible wins, better solvency, higher profits, happier customers, and, most importantly, long-term corporate resilience. It's how great companies actually manage to stick around. And all of this leaves us with one final, really important question. Our entire system of corporate risk management was basically forged in the fire of financial disasters. But as we look to the future, are these same systems and mindsets truly ready for the next wave of massive systemic threats, like environmental and climate risk? Now, that's the question that boards and leaders should be asking themselves right now.